to the June 19th meeting of the Milford School Committee. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast through Milford TV, and other media are in attendance. If anyone would like to make a video or audio recording of this meeting, please let us know. Thank you. The first item on our agenda tonight is the approval of minutes. Hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to review the minutes from the last regular and executive session meetings on Thursday, June 21st, 2018. And if so, is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing no discussion, can I have a motion to approve the regular session minutes from June 21st, 2018? I have a motion from Laura, second by Jim. All in favor? Can I have a motion to approve the executive session minutes from June 21st, 2018? Motion from Megan, second from Laura. All in favor? Perfect. Tonight we also have a release of executive session minutes. The open meeting law requires that after a review of the executive session minutes, a formal announcement is made that they are no longer exempt from disclosure. Therefore, the school committee executive session minutes from January 11th, 2018, February 15th, 2018, and May 3rd, 2018 are now available for release. The second item on our agenda is announcements, correspondence, and distributions. Do the members of the committee have any announcements, correspondence, or distributions to share this evening? Dr. McIntyre?
Do not tonight.
Okay. Third on the agenda, invitation to speak. Is there anyone present in our overwhelming audience who would like to speak tonight?
Yes.
Oh, not yet. You guys are coming up next.
Wait your turn. Okay.
You got one thing to do.
So along those lines, item 4 on our agenda is the China Exchange Program. So we'd love to welcome you up and have you come on up to the table and fill us in a little bit on this program. We have Ben Liberto and Heidi Squadrito, and two people who I'm not familiar with, so if you could please introduce yourselves to the committee.
I'm Skylar Pack. I just graduated this year.
Yes, Skylar.
I'm Gabby Chong, and I also just graduated.
Hi, Gabby.
So thank you for having us. There are a number of people I have to thank for making this trip happen in the first place. I think when this was first announced to you all, they made the point, I think Dr. McIntyre said this came across like pretty much at the last minute this year. So I do need to thank Josh Otlin at Milford High School. He was the one that asked me to lead the trip. He thought I was the right person for the job. I need to thank Dr. McIntyre as well. He has been just outstanding in his support of the trip and helping me along the way. And during the trip itself, he was in constant contact with me, like checking up, is everyone okay? Is everyone okay? It's like, at least, like, I pretty much once a day I would get this message from Dr. McIntyre. How's everyone doing? All that stuff. And I'm like, we're fine, sending back pictures and all that. So I want to thank him for that as well.
Ben and I are WeChat buddies now, too.
Yeah, we are. Jen Norjanian, who answered a ton of questions I had, she went on the trip with Dr. McIntyre 3 years ago, and she came to one of our parent sessions as well. I also need to thank Heidi over here, the other chaperone, who was an absolute lifesaver throughout the trip, even if she did. No, I wasn't. I was going to say she drove me nuts, but she didn't. She was a sweetheart. And last, the students and the parents. I think it really is a testament to the town that when I went before the students to say, hey, I want to take you guys to China, we had a 6-day deadline to get everyone on board before the price of the flights would change dramatically. And in 6 days, 16 students and their parents said, yeah, we're willing to send our kids halfway around the world on this cultural exchange. It really is a testament to the students and the families more than me. So yeah, we did a 12-day trip around China. Obviously, I've got some pictures to show you guys. The first one there being us on the Great Wall. This is before we started to scale up it because everyone is happy and smiling in the picture.
It was very hot that day.
Yeah, but I didn't know if you wanted me to go through the slideshow first or.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is I saved all. I had to limit this. I took something like 2,000 pictures over the course of the trip, and yeah, we're not going through it all now. But this is obviously us on the Great Wall of China. Later that day, if this will work. We visited Jade Workshop. I know it's somewhat hard to see, but that entire ship is carved out of a solid block of jade. So we had a number of opportunities throughout the trip to just experience Chinese history and Chinese culture. I think that ship alone is I forget how many millions of dollars they said it was, but it's worth more than I will ever make in my career. The next day we were in Beijing's, oh, there we go, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this was us at the Summer Palace in Beijing, and specifically that's the marble boat, which was reconstructed by the Dowager Empress in the late 19th century. And this is us taking a boat tour across the lake at the Summer Palace later that day. Everyone's very excited there, by and large. Yeah, we're all excited. Then we went to the Beijing Olympic Park. And I picked this photo in particular because if you notice, we are not alone. On the far left side, there are a bunch of Chinese people that joined us. One of the things that was astounding to, I think, everyone on the trip was the fact that we were basically celebrities. Every city we were at, somebody stopped us along the way and wanted to get a picture with us, especially when they found out that we were Americans. They loved meeting us. A lot of these people are coming to Beijing from more rural parts of China. And so the second they saw us and they found out they were Americans, they got really excited. Emily Condon, who's in the center there, she was basically worshipped as a minor deity throughout the trip because of her red hair. And, like, she was the first redheaded person.
She was like, she actually received a gift in one of the restaurants in honor of her visit to China. We honor you.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. So on the other side, you know, the Beijing Olympic Stadium. Again, in this picture, obviously, I didn't see the little kid there on my right.
Oh, they snuck in.
I know,
They
they
kept
snuck in,
sneaking.
yeah.
They kept sneaking into all
We
the
will
photos.
welcome them in. This is at Tiananmen Square in the capital, and that's the gates to the Forbidden City in the background. And this is once you're inside the first gate at the Forbidden City. I think as a history teacher, this is what struck me the most was my time there. I couldn't believe how massive the entire complex was. You go through the first gate, and then there's a second, a third, a fourth gate. It goes on and on and on. All right, so our next city was Shijiazhuang, and this was actually taken in the conference room of our sister school over there. Really fancy, and this was right before all the students went out to stay with host families for 2 nights. And although everyone is smiling in this picture, I promise you we were all extraordinarily nervous at that point. This is the one part of the trip where we were going to be separated, and, you know, back me up, guys, but I think everyone was a little bit nervous about going off to their host families.
I think there was like a little bit of hesitation as far as, you know, like what to expect and what will they ask of me and will they speak English, and we tried to reassure them that they were probably wondering the same thing. You know, they were welcoming you into their home, but they were wondering how will we communicate and will we be honoring them well enough and be good host for them. So we tried to let them see both, you know, the other side of it as well. How did you guys feel though once you got there?
It wasn't that bad. It was definitely different, but it was definitely like different than what we were used to, I think, here, but it honestly wasn't that bad because like they generally did like a lot of the same things that we did. Like they like breakfast, dinner, lunch, and everything. They watched movies or stuff at night. So it was, I don't know, I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah, I was like nervous at first, especially since I had like a male exchange student. I was like worried about that, but like when you do it like hour by hour, like everyday tasks or things like that, or like getting ready, like, and you just think about it like in that way, it got really easy. Like when they show you how to do things, and you're like, this isn't so bad at all. And I ended up like having a good time and like doing things, and I liked seeing how they lived because it was just like minor adjustments. And I was like proud of myself whenever I like was like, oh, this is like so similar, even though it's just a little different.
Yeah, while we were at the school, we actually had the privilege of taking a calligraphy class. That's Jill Kelly. She's a rising senior. And what it says there, going from top right down, was China, America, friendship forever. So we learned it. I was terrible at it, but I blame the fact that I left it. Yeah, Jill did a great job. And so this was us the next day as we're hanging out with some of the Chinese students there. I think once the ice was broken, everyone got along really well. In fact, later that day, the group I was with and Heidi was with, we wound up going to do karaoke.
Oh my gosh.
The kids love karaoke, both the Chinese kids and our students. The Chinese kids were much better at it than our own.
What I think our students enjoyed about it was that you had your own room. So it was like almost like a recording studio. You got to pick your own music, you were the DJ and everything, and it was private, so that was really neat.
Mhm. And then this was from our first day in the city of Xi'an. So after Shijiazhuang, we took a high-speed train, and we just finished a dumpling dinner, and now we were sitting down to see a show about the Tang Dynasty, which is sort of considered like China's golden age in their history. And then here are some of our students at the entrance to the Terracotta Warriors exhibit, and I picked this one because, again, we were stopped by random school groups. They just wanted to come up and say hi to us and get their picture with us, saying, "Oh my God, look, we met Americans." And then this is, of course, inside the first pit of the Terracotta Warriors exhibit, which was absolutely fascinating and stunning. You don't get a sense of how large the whole thing is, but it's absolutely massive. They say there are like 6,000 to 8,000 of these soldiers. Every one of the heads is individualized.
It's the biggest active archaeological dig in the world.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's still ongoing right now.
Yeah, so there's
Um,
currently 2,000 uncovered at this time, and they estimated, like you said, about 8,000 under total. So they're leaving them until technology catches up.
Yeah, to prevent the paint from oxidizing on them all. And again, another school group that we encountered right outside the first pit. We really were celebrities there. They loved us. One of the things, it was just amazing how friendly they all were. They all wanted to see us, get their pictures with us. Some of them wanted to add us on WeChat. It was it was a riot. The kids had a blast with this. And then this is taken from Shanghai. This is our last city, and these are the three sisters, as they call them, the three super tall buildings. The Jinmao Tower, which is the upper right, the Shanghai World Financial Center on the upper left, and then from the lower left is the Shanghai Tower, currently the second tallest building in the world. And we actually got a chance to go up to the top of the observation deck and see Shanghai and the surrounding area.
So it was 127 floors in 55 seconds.
Yeah,
The elevator was super fast.
yeah, I think it's the fastest in the world right now.
And this is second to only, is it Dubai?
Yeah, the Burj Khalifa,
Second
Dubai.
tallest tower in the world.
This was taken from the Yu Gardens in Shanghai. It's one of the classic Chinese gardens. As our tour guide there said, this is what you think of when you imagine China. And it was overcast that day. It was raining a little bit. This was the start of monsoon season, but I think we were all blown away by how magnificent, how beautiful it all was.
What I was fascinated by was you didn't even realize that these venues existed. They were almost like you'd walk through this little archway off the sidewalk, and all of a sudden there was this big expanse of this gorgeous, setting, and it just went on, and you were like, where did this thing come from? It just kind of materialized.
Yeah.
Same thing with the temples. Like you just came in off the street, off the sidewalk, through this little doorway, and all of a sudden it was just this amazing, amazing sight.
So yeah, this is all of us, and I really want to highlight to you all just how lucky we were to have such an amazing group of students come with us on the trip. It was an absolute joy to take all of them. I think they represented the school and the country extraordinarily well. I was very, very, very proud and lucky to have all these guys go with us on the trip.
I want to add also that Ben, probably you've had all these students, right?
I had most of them, yeah, about a dozen.
And for me, having had, right now I'm at Memorial School teaching over there, but I taught at Stacy for 7 years. So I had many of these students in 5th and 6th grade. So for me, it was an amazing journey to see them having grown. And the girl that I've got my head on her shoulder there on the end is not my daughter. My daughter's probably somewhere else, way down the line, as far away from me as possible.
Right in the middle.
But Ashley was one of my students, and it was neat to get to know them on a different level. Not as, as their teacher. It was really cool to see them as people, just really great kids.
And so the tour guides kept telling us one thing over and over again. They said if you wanted to understand the last 1,000 years of Chinese history, you would go to Xi'an, which was a historic capital. If you want to understand the last 500 years of Chinese history, you would go to Beijing. And if you want to understand the last 100 years of Chinese history, you would go to Shanghai. And I think that's the case because we ended the trip, the last full day we spent there, we ended on a river cruise on the Huangpo River, which runs right through the heart of the city. And so we were all excited to get going there. And we saw some amazing sights, like this is the Bund, which was the traditional home of the British and the French quarters of Shanghai after the first Opium Wars, and so that's the British Exchange and the French Exchange. And right across the river from these is modern Shanghai. So that's the heart of the financial district, the Oriental Pearl Towers, that weird-looking building in the foreground, the building that looks like a bottle cap opener, that's the World Financial Center, and then the Shanghai Tower. And so the kids just had an absolute blast on the trip. I actually got an email about, I think a week after we returned from one of the parents. I redacted the email from any identifying information, but this is what it said. I wanted to thank you for taking our daughter on such an adventurous trip. She learned a lot about history, culture, and everyday living in China. The pictures she took and the stories she told revealed to us how much she really soaked in while in China. I doubt she would have ever picked China as a travel destination for the future, so we are happy she had such a great experience. And that's what I think this is all about. It's about, opening up our students' minds to a part of the world that not a lot of Westerners have been to. And, guys, Sky, Gabby backed me up, but I mean, it certainly did, change your worldview, right? So.
Is that the end of the slides?
Yeah, that's the end of the
All right,
slideshow,
I'll
so.
back real quick.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Uh,
all of
thank
that
you so
and
much.
The many, many pictures you took. You picked perfect ones out of your 2,000.
Thank you.
I'd like to open it up to the committee. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I do.
Maybe Heidi, Skylar or Gabby, could one of you speak a little bit to sort of the interaction with the students? I know you went to the school. Maybe just talk a little bit about what that entailed.
Yeah. What do we do at the school?
So we went on a tour.
Oh yeah, so we got to tour around the school, and what I thought was interesting is they had their own little museum, and it was kind of cool because we had 2 students actually lead the tour, and it was just kind of interesting to see how proud they were of their school and everything. I thought that was really good.
Excellent.
So in terms of the student interaction, there was that karaoke branch, but there were also a few other independent groups that were going. So me, another student, and conveniently Sky, instead of going to karaoke, we went to this mountain that just it was so steep. It was we looked through our phone thing, and it was double the flights of the Great Wall. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, how are we doing this? And then when you hit the top, there's just this tranquil garden with this huge tree in the center, and you keep going further and you hit this garden that just has the yin and yang, but on the floor in marble, just inscribed, and in front of it is just this set of stairs, and when you hit the top, it's this whole Confucian temple. It's just sitting there peacefully at the top, and it was just whoa. So it was I don't know how to describe it. It was really nice and pleasant that they had decided to show us something from their area that was really special to us. And because one of the fathers, I forget whose it was, but it was one of the fathers, he was describing to us part of the history involving Confucius, and also some of these mathematicians, because there was also statues of mathematicians independent of that on the side. So he was really describing it to us, and I was just happy to listen to what they had to share.
That's excellent. It was more than a few decades ago, but I sort of remember high school, and when you're in high school, it feels like it's your whole world and that there's nothing else. And so you just showed with the scenery really being able to open your eyes. So I think it's a fantastic experience. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just want to say thank you for coming tonight and sharing. It sounds like a tremendous opportunity, so thank you to our teachers and to our students for participating and for sharing. I think it sounds like a wonderful opportunity.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Extra credit to graduates who come back to speak
yeah.
about it.
And Ben, before you guys go, were you able to? You're planning maybe next year or every other year? Is that the plan?
So there were a number of students in the rising senior class who expressed interest, but due to the short timeline, they weren't able to get it together. So I'm going to try to meet with them in the fall and see if there's enough interest to go again in the summer of next year. Because a lot of students said, "Oh my God, that sounds amazing! I would love to go to China." I mean, for the money that they pay, it's a trip unlike anything else.
I just wanted to ask Gabby and Skylar, was this the first international trip you'd taken with the high school, or had you taken others?
I went on the Italy one, I think in February, I want to say. But I liked both of them a lot, but I liked this one in the aspect that it was more focused on seeing all the historical sites and things I were to see. And I just found it I don't know, I thought it was a lot more interesting just because the cultures are like so much more different. Because like in Italy, like a lot of the stuff they do is like pretty much the same, just like in a different language. But in China, some of the things were so different to like what we're used to. I liked that.
There was symbolism everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Everything, right?
Yeah.
Everything was symbolic.
Yep.
Didn't matter if it was a picture or a way of eating or anything. It just, and Jacob kept saying that to us, our first tour guide. He kept saying, symbolism everywhere, symbolism everywhere. And it was so true. It just was very peaceful.
I was just wondering, when I asked the question, if there was something that made the two of you decide that this was the trip that you wanted to take. Had you been thinking about it, knowing other trips had happened, or?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, honestly, for me, it was just kind of like, I felt like China wasn't really like a place that I'd probably go to on my own. So I thought that this was a good opportunity to just like give me like a reason to go there.
Yeah.
My daughter's not here, obviously, but she hadn't even unpacked yet from the February trip of Italy. And she walked in the door and said, "Hey, Miss Roberto wants to know if I can go to China." And I was like, "You?" I was just like, like, I don't know. And then she gave us every reason why, and I was thinking, you know what? When would she ever go on her own? And so thank you for inviting her. It was just, and I think she actually said she would go again now, having gone this time. For me, if I may, just say that thank you for allowing me the opportunity to go. Thank you for asking. And also, having gone to China at this point in my life, I feel like now I can go anywhere. I can do anything. Because it was not anything that I had ever thought I'd ever do. And I did it, and like you guys, like, you know, you said you were so proud of yourself for having done something while
Yeah.
you were there.
Can I say something extra?
Yeah.
I really loved being with the group. Like, there were like so many great moments like within the group, but like honestly, I think like one of my like favorite moments was this solid. We were given I'm trying to think. We were given like a 4-hour free block. I think it was like
in
one of the
Shanghai.
days in Shanghai. It was like 4 hours that were free, and a lot of, like, I'm not really sure what other people were doing, but I, with very little like telling, like with very little notifying of anybody, I gave like a vague text to Sky that was like, I'm gonna disappear for like 3 hours. I just like used like my phone map, even though the internet didn't work, but it could tell me where my location was, and I found out that the art district in Shanghai was a 35-minute walk away, and I walked straight there, like walking with full purpose, to hit it. And also there was like a park that I wanted to see there too, so that too. So with full purpose, like through the art park and then to the art district by myself without telling anybody. And I was without telling anybody.
That's where you were.
She disappeared.
Yeah.
Turn for the worst.
And that's what was so great about it was that like not like
On cameras.
it was like there were people like I like had like a few interactions with like people that were just like local there that spoke English, and they were all like everyone that's there is like so willing to help you out. Like I know there was like I had a few interactions with like local people that helped me out as I was in the district, like maneuvering all the galleries, and like one I was like so in love with the gallery, but I saw this book and I didn't know how to buy it, and they like finally helped me how to do it, and I was like so happy when I left and I had the book in my hand. But that was like so satisfying, like just doing that on my own and like being able to do it, like that was like really good.
That's great. And I love the fact that it was a partnership between a high school teacher and an elementary school. I know you had a dual role of being mom and teacher there, but how often do you see elementary and high school teachers having the opportunity to partner with
Yeah, it
something
was
like
really
that?
neat.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
We were definitely balanced, you know,
Yeah.
like, definitely balanced. It was, you know, when one of us had to be bad cop, good cop, you know, we did that and whatever. But it was very rare that we had to be bad cop. The
Yeah,
kids
of
were kids were absolutely amazing. And it was interesting, I found the division of the students when we had dinner.
Oh, yeah, there were dinner groups.
There was,
It was weird.
like, these
It was
dinner
funny.
groups just kind of evolved on their own, and I would sit at one table, and the same kids would sit with me. And we'd just strike up conversations and be laughing and carry on from previous dinner conversation, and you'd have the same group with you. So it was just a natural, like, way of, that they all just kind of fit in. Like, everybody had somebody. It was really nice, and the kids were really kind to each other and supportive of each other, and
Yeah.
just, it was
No,
great.
there wasn't a single problem on the trip at all.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. The kids had a wonderful time. I mean, aside from the flight delays getting back to Logan at
Right,
the end.
yeah, that was it. But the day we were in Shanghai, when Gabby spoke of that little layover time that we had, that free time, I actually took a small group of students over to Shanghai Disney. And our tour guide went with us on the tour bus, and these guys were free to explore around the hotel area. And the kids going to Shanghai Disney, we didn't go into the park itself, but we did, like, what would you call it, like,
I don't know, I wasn't
that,
there.
that street that you can buy stuff in Disney, I forget what it's called. Any town, I don't know.
Oh, like downtown Disney. or
Downtown
something,
Disney,
yeah.
thank you. And it was Shanghai, downtown Shanghai Disney, yeah. So the kids enjoyed that, and yeah, so it was good. It was, and every time we told them, okay, 30 minutes, need to be at this space, this place, everybody was where they needed to be, and don't say except Heidi.
We were
Because that
just
only
on the
happened
kids.
once, one time. I wasn't where I needed to be. But
Yeah, no, the kids were wonderful. We really couldn't have asked for a better group to go.
Well, that's great.
Thank you.
It seems like you did a wonderful job
We had a
keeping
lot of
what
fun.
now is a tradition alive in
We had a lot
Milford
of
of our
fun.
connection with China.
Yeah.
And I know we'll be looking forward to hearing about next year's trip and where that will take everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and
Thank
especially
you.
to you too,
Thank you.
Skylar and Gabby, for
Yeah.
coming tonight.
Good
And
luck.
good luck next year, guys, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright. Next on our agenda, we have a first reading of several policies. The first policy, I think, is going to be updated by Mrs. Perry, Student Activity Agency Account Policy.
So the recommended changes that you have in front of you essentially represent four I'll call major changes. One being that the new policy does formalize the high school and the Stacy School, and now including Woodland, to formalize the ability to issue a purchase order through the student activity account as a withdrawal. That's the first change. The second is currently the policy states that the class treasurer can pick up the balance of the class's funds within 90 days, and we've now included that to be upon the last invoice that is required of the class to pay. The third change is removing the reference to vending machine revenue. As you know, we created a new account that holds the vending machine revenue in a separate account. It is not intermingled into the high school student activity account. And the last major change is that there are occasions where the class may want to do a fundraising for certain students, whether it be around Christmas time or Thanksgiving, and issue out gift cards to families. And it is a recommendation that anyone that is being issued a gift card, actually we maintain a list with a signatory of the recipient. And that is now included in the policy. Other than that, it was really just referencing title changes and minor changes.
Does any committee member have a question for Kathy about the changes, proposed changes to the policy? So that was a first read. So normally we go second read. So we'll put that back on the agenda for the next meeting with the second read. The next policy, and thank you, Kathy, for doing
Thank
that
you.
for us. The second policy that we'll be discussing also in first read is policy file AC, non-discrimination notice and civil rights safety information for school personnel, parents, and students. And that, I believe, do you want to talk about that one, Megan?
Sure, this I believe is just an update to
Mhm.
comply with Massachusetts law, and so it's just to keep us in accordance, and so we just wanted to update to reflect addition requirements they had related to pregnancy or pregnancy-related conditions, and those are the changes you'll see highlighted.
And are there any questions on that one? And the third, policy BDB2, required signature on bills and payrolls. And what that is going to do is allow the superintendent or allow the school committee to designate someone who can take the place of the superintendent. No, sorry. Yes, superintendent or designate. When Kevin is busy on his vacations, we will have a designee to sign off on the payroll so we can ensure that everyone has their paychecks according to the timeline in which they are expecting.
Jen, just a question on that. Will that be in writing, that designation, Kevin, just so it's available?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so.
Thanks.
From the policy.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on that or any of the policies?
Does the designee need to meet certain requirements? Or
What do you say?
so
You're saying I'm irreplaceable. That's what I'm hearing.
exactly. Will it just come down to whoever happens to be in the office, whether it's
I think
Kathy
it'll
or-
probably be an assistant superintendent, either Kathy or Craig.
Okay.
It'll probably be the two people that will be designated to potentially sign off.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so as has been our current practice, we will bring these policies back for second reading at our next meeting. Assistant Superintendent Consigli, are you ready to
I'm ready.
go on to your
I'm ready.
school start time committee update?
I am, thank you.
Perfect. You're welcome.
First, I just want to start with a little background. If everyone remembers, well, maybe we don't. At the beginning of last year, Dr. Perriello came with some information about school start time. So we formed a committee in the winter based on some of the research that he presented to us to see if this was feasible or something that we needed to continue to look at in our own district. So we formed a committee in the winter of 14 members. There was a mix between teachers, administrators, parents, community members, and we had a student on the committee as well. We met in February, March, May, and June. And basically the first thing we did was look at a lot of the research. We looked at research articles, we looked at Milford data, and we looked at start and end times from around the area. In your packet, you'll notice that I have the current start times of our schools. Brookside Memorial both start at 8:40 and end at 2:50. Woodland starts at 8:25, ends at 2:40. Stacy 7:45, ends at 2:13, and Milford High School is 7:50, 2:20. The link that you can click on shows, I don't even remember how many different towns that we got, 46 different towns in the area, and highlighted are the only schools only towns whose high schools start after 8 o'clock. There are 8 o'clock or later. 1, 2, 3, I believe, maybe 4. And Ashland being the latest at 8:20, and Ashland just moved to 8:20. All right. And all that data actually was dug up by Emily Condon all last year. So she was our student on the committee, and that was her task.
She was also your intern, right, for the second half?
She was, and that was part of what she was doing, was researching that. Then we have some tardy data from Milford High School. This was as of March 21st. So as you can see, when you look at that data, there are just about 70% of all of the unexcused tardies come between 7:50 and 8:30. So take it for what it's worth. There's always going to be people that come a little later than the start time, but 70% of the unexcused tardies were coming in before 8:30. So we reviewed this. This was one of our greatest feats, I think, as a committee. We reviewed 23 articles, but it wasn't me reviewing them alone. Everybody took an article or two and wrote a little synopsis, and I provided that for everybody. If you click on the link, you can see the little synopsis of all the different research articles that people looked at. And basically, this is the data that was, the research that was prominent throughout all of the articles. That adolescents need between 8.5 and 9.5 hours of sleep. Due to naturally occurring hormones and circadian sleep-wake cycles, it's very difficult for adolescents to fall asleep much before 11 o'clock at night. Chronic sleep deprivation leads to many physical and emotional problems. Due to all these factors, pediatricians recommend that school start time of no earlier than 8:30 for adolescents, so that's middle schools and high schools. And then many studies debunk the myth that over the long run, students stay up later when the start time is moved to a later time. In fact, a lot of the research articles that we found, kids were actually going to sleep earlier. So in doing that and moving the start time later, they're able to get the 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep. So what we found in our research is that there clearly is some science that says middle schools and high schools should start 8:30 or later. However, there's many questions that have to be answered before we even thought about moving start times. One, how can we shift the school start time of all the schools to address the needs of our adolescents? So simply moving high school and middle schools, it's not as simple as it sounds. There's a whole lot of other problems that we have to think about before that. Like what time do you start the elementary schools? Do you start at the same time? If you start at the same time, you're gonna end up with more buses, and obviously more buses is more money. How will any changes in start time affect after school activities, sports, music, clubs, work, etc.? Part of our research in those research articles said that work wasn't really affected because businesses didn't need kids till after 4 anyways. But it would be something that we'd have to investigate here in Milford. How do changes in school start time and end time impact working families with access to childcare? Because obviously it's a shift, however we move. What will the financial ramifications be of any changes, whether it be busing or after school care? How will contractual obligations affect school start time? Obviously, right in all of our contracts have specific start times and end times for teachers and teaching assistants, custodians, everybody. And then how can we work with parents and community members through any changes that we make? This is certainly an adaptive change. It's I think where Boston went wrong, if you recall, Boston made the shift. They treated it as a technical change, meaning that they thought that they could just simply change the time and that'd be it. Everybody would just make the adjustments, but it's not that simple. So any change that we would have would definitely have to change the thinking of why we're doing it. And I think if we stick with it's best for kids, I think that's where you start, but then you have to weed out all the other problems that come up because of it. Clearly it will not be an immediate change. If a change is warranted, and I'm going to go over how we're going to come to that conclusion, it certainly won't be until 2 or 4 years down the road. But there is many discoveries to be made before we draw that conclusion. So our committee's goals for the upcoming year is to survey students, parents, and staff members, meet with community members, hold parent forums, staff forums, do a financial study on busing, figure out what the music and sports schedule impact would be, meet with school administrators and get their input, and then study other districts that have made changes. One of the questions that keeps coming up is, how are there any districts with our demographics that have made the switch? and with what I've provided you with the area towns around us, nobody has really made the shift to 8:30 for middle schools and high schools. So we're gonna have to dig that data up from somewhere. And that's where we're at for the coming year. I don't know if anybody has questions. I don't know if Jim's been a part of the committee. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I think you did a great job pulling that together.
So, and I think we do have a great committee and a good cross section of different representative groups. So.
Does anyone else have any questions for
I
Craig?
just have a question, I don't know, is there a timeline, Craig, for when you would hope to make a recommendation?
I'm not. I don't think I'm ready to give you a timeline.
In this school year, I guess is my,
Maybe.
okay,
It depends on how the forums go,
Sure.
how the surveys go.
Okay.
I don't know.
okay, thanks.
I think there's a lot of roadmap.
Yeah.
There's a lot of roadmap left
Absolutely.
on that.
Yeah.
Definitely, okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
So and you touched on it, there's a contractual implication to this, right?
Yes.
And so the next contract is gonna be up in 3 years, we're gonna start that process in 3 years, so I assume by then,
Yes.
we'll have everything finalized, ready to go, so it can be part of that negotiation, right?
Definitely.
Okay.
I guess I have one question. What would be the concern about the demographics of Milford, and if we're looking at science, how would demography make an impact on the decision?
I think where that question is coming from is childcare. I think is where that's coming from. It really is not a
Okay.
science question, more of like the adaptive change kind of question. Like if parents are holding multiple jobs or they have to get here,
Okay.
there, or anywhere, how can we make the shift so it doesn't impact their work schedules or it doesn't cause some kind of burden that we're not thinking about, where they have to either get out of work or pay people to watch their children. So.
Makes sense, thank you. So we'll look forward to future updates on this from Craig and your committee, and to some of the forums and meetings that you'll be holding over the course of next year. Next, we go to Dr. McIntyre for a report of the superintendent of schools, in particular the Brookside principal search update.
Yeah, so we're nearing the conclusion of the principal search. It's been a very comprehensive process. We had 36 applicants initially. Through a screening committee made up of teachers and administrators, we identified 10 semifinalists. Those semifinalists were interviewed by a committee made up of parents, administrators, and teachers. And from that process, we identified 3 finalists, and they were Dr. Carrie Sankey from the Mansfield Public Schools, Amy Mulcairn from the Framingham Public Schools, as well as Eric Elmore from the the Pike Public Schools. And I'm blanking on the date right now, it was Tuesday, this past Tuesday, it's blended together. We had 3 forums held and a number of individual interviews, and the forums were separated out. We had a group of faculty, a very large group of faculty from Brookside Elementary School, which is fantastic, a good group of parents, as well as 3 of our school committee members and some administrators who kind of interviewed and heard from each of the candidates, and each of the candidates also went through a series of one-on-one interviews. And right now where we are in the process is I'm checking references, communicating with the candidates, and hopefully we'll have an announcement. I'm targeting early next week, but sometimes, with summer it's a little bit of a challenge to get in touch with some folks, but hopefully early next week we'll have a recommended a candidate. We'll have that person come to the first school committee meeting in September, and hopefully we can get them on board as soon as possible.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Dr. McIntyre?
So where are we with some of the other hires, like the assistant?
So the assistant principal at Woodland,
Yeah.
so that process is wrapping up tomorrow. We've got a group of administrators who are interviewing finalists.
Okay.
So that one's coming close to a conclusion as well. So ideally, we'll have people on board August 1st, so they'll have about a month to get kind of up to speed and hit the ground running, and when schools open at the end of August.
Jeff, going back to the initial search, I know you listed Framingham as one of the districts. What were the other 2?
The other one was Mansfield, and the other gentleman was from Deer Run Elementary School, which is part of Pike Township in Indiana. And his family he's relocating for family reasons to Massachusetts area, whether we bring him on board as a principal or not.
It's coming.
He's coming either way.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Kevin, maybe one more question. Are you doing a sort of the same process for the Woodland assistant, or, because they did that for the Stacy assistant, is there criteria by which you go to this more elaborate process or not?
I think when we have a lot of time,
Okay.
we tend to follow that process. I think the Woodland one even opened up a little bit later than the Brookside process.
Okay.
So we abbreviated that one
Okay.
than what we typically would, just because we're running up against the start of the school
Yep.
year.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I think, knowing that, I think out of this group, there's been great school committee representation in all of these search processes, from the middle school through the most current ones. And, I think it says a lot about the process when so many people have been invited. And it is true, there were a tremendous number of Brookside teachers here the other night.
They're asking great questions too.
Um,
Great questions.
To pull people out in the summer is really difficult, and you had a great showing. And also the fact that you've had a great showing from your admin team, and all, to see a high school principal coming to a forum where you have the K-2 principals being hired, special ed representation, it was just really nice to see that level of involvement on the part of the admin team and the faculty.
Yeah, so for the Brookside process, I think we had more than 100 people involved in between the 3 steps of the process, and it might have been close to 120. The Woodland process, they did have significant teacher representation. It's just with the way the timeline was going to work out, we just couldn't do the full forum in the night, in the evening piece.
Jen, may I just add, I think even 1 or 2 of the candidates spoke to the level of involvement, and so I think it says a lot to them when you have that many people who want to participate in the search.
Yeah, and it's always daunting to me, because sometimes you throw a party and nobody attends. And we had tons of people here last night, and the weather was, or Tuesday, the weather was terrible. We had the thunderstorms rolling through, and I was like, I just hope there's one parent and one teacher and maybe one administrative school committee member. But it ended up being big groups across the board, which, from my perspective, just shows the kind of commitment and passion for the Milford Public Schools kind of across the community, both, our employees, our teachers, our administrators, but as well as community members. And the comments were very, and I read every single comment sheet, and they're so thoughtful, and they were weighing a lot of very good factors and variables. And I think everybody was really taking it seriously, and I really do, from my perspective, take everybody's feedback in, because my lens is never I don't want to say never the best lens, but it's limited to my own perspective. And when you have parents and teachers and administrators and community members all weighing in on the various candidates, it just gives us such a wealth and kind of diverse amount of information that we can really weigh, and we can really look at kind of their backgrounds, their performance across the different activities and interviews and forums, and kind of weigh the fit. And I think we had 3 great candidates, and I think ultimately we're going to end up with a fantastic principal, as well as a fantastic assistant principal at Woodland.
Great, well, you have your work cut out for you, so.
We're getting close, though.
Well,
We're
looking forward to the official announcement.
we're in the stretch run, so hopefully early next week.
Great, thank you. So moving on, we have the report of the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Human Resources.
Thank you. I have for the committee's approval this evening, 8 warrants. The first warrant is in the amount of $357,463.69.
I'll take a motion to approve from Jen. Second by Joe.
The second warrant is in the amount of $25,358 and $25,300
Is there a motion to approve for Megan? Second by Laura. All in favor?
The third warrant is in the amount of $10,125.98.
Motion to approve from Joe. Second from Jen. All in favor?
The fourth warrant is in the amount of $9,565.67.
Motion to approve from Megan. Second from Laura. All in favor?
The fifth warrant is in the amount of $17,104.72.
Motion to approve by Joe. Second by Jen. All in favor?
The sixth warrant is in the amount of $6,686.23.
Motion to approve by Megan.
second by Joe. All in favor?
We're waiting for Laura.
Oh, sorry.
I thought we had a
Come on.
kid.
Boy, girl dance.
Boy, girl, boy, girl.
The seventh warrant is in the amount of $110,822.43.
Motion to approve by Laura. That was proactive that time. Second by Megan. All in favor?
And the last warrant is in the amount of $387,242.83.
Motion to approve by Jim, second by Joe. All in favor?
And there is a course reimbursement request, in the amount of $29,243.90,
And do we need
which
to
does require a vote.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve for Megan? Second by Joe. All in favor?
And the committee also has a list of the latest hires from our previous meeting. No vote is required. We do have out-of-state travel requests. The first one is from Mr. Consigli. Do you want to speak to it? Frank?
Yeah,
Do you know where you're going?
I'm going to the ASCD conference in Chicago, March 16th to the 18th. I love this conference, and we were able to take 50 people last year with us. But I learned so much when I go to this conference last year. I spent all my time just researching instructional coaches and learning from people across the nation about how to implement them. So, I don't know.
Want to do them all at once?
I'm
Jen?
comfortable with that, are you? Okay.
We also have a travel request from Lucy Jenkins, the Director of Special Ed. She's looking to travel out of state from October 28th to November 2nd. And this is the second half of the course that she took the previous fall, and attending this trip would allow her to receive the credit that is given by taking both courses. The third, Kevin, are you speaking to, I understand, the Holly Davern request?
Can you state the travel request?
To travel to Canada and students are involved?
Yes, so this is a Quebec trip for the middle school that they're undertaking for the first time. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for the students. Earlier today, you saw the impact of just 2 of the 16 students that went to China in terms of the cultural experience. I think this is a great opportunity for some of the French students to kind of have a similar experience, practice their language skills, as well as get a sense of some of the French culture that occurs in Quebec.
And
Jim has
last,
one more.
Joe?
Just a quick question on that. So is that during like a regular school day, or is that
Do you have the
over the course
dates?
of a
Do you have the
weekend?
dates?
It is the 15th of February through the 17th.
I believe that's February vacation.
Okay.
It's a Friday through a Monday.
Okay.
So I think it runs from maybe that Friday's a school day and then the 17th is the first day of the February vacation.
Okay.
Any other questions so far?
And moving on to the last request is Dr. McIntyre's travel in February, the 14th to the 16th. The national conference, it's entitled Effective Leadership Creates Success, in Los Angeles, California.
And this is the National Superintendent's Conference, which I attend annually, or typically attend annually.
Any questions from any committee members? Would anyone like to make a motion to vote on trips? Megan? Second? Laura? All in favor? All right. We'll move on to subcommittee updates, and we're looking for one from the Long Range Ed Planning Committee.
That's you. Kathy, you got this one?
Yep.
All right.
So we met last week, and it was a very productive meeting. We spoke about, well, first of all, we initiated a Google Doc that every one of the members could add information, concerns, ideas, concepts, and that was executed, and essentially we spoke mostly to that document. We spoke about our school building structures, the age of our buildings, our existing capacity enrollment, mechanical needs in buildings, our existing pool, the condition of the pool, being 50 years old or moving up to 50 years old, We spoke about our community use program and how it needs to be in the forefront of our process as we develop our long-range ed plan. We also spoke about early intervention, the preschool. If that does become a mandate for full day, we need to incorporate that into our long-range ed plan. Essentially, we agreed to meet in I think it's a couple weeks, August 1st, and we are continuing on to our goal of September to have the long-range ed plan complete. Want to add something?
No, I think you got it.
Okay.
Any questions from any committee member?
So when you say September, this September?
We hope to.
And that plan will be basically some options that we'll get feedback from the committee. We'll recommend the options in order, but obviously feedback from the committee and the community at large.
And what would be the next step after that? Would that be going back to Nesta, working with them, or?
Well, it would be based on kind of whatever the option that, you know, kind of the community feels good about, the school committee feels good about. We would start to kind of look at the MSBA process, or potentially the MSBA process. Or starting to lay the groundwork for that.
Just one more question. The ed plan's gonna be all inclusive, right? So we're not just gonna pick one project and that's gonna.
No,
be
the goal is to have like maybe a 10 to 15 year rollout, depending on the scope of the options in the process. And some of it will be some renovation in some of our buildings. Some of it could potentially be like a full renovation or a rebuild, like a new building or new buildings.
Any other questions? All right, moving along, does anyone have any future agenda items? I have one if you don't mind.
Sure.
Last week I attended the Woodland Building Committee, and some questions came up about the caretaking of the Woodland grounds. And I feel like it's come up over time, but not in a formal setting, and I was just wondering if there was a way that this committee could get some formal understanding of who's in charge of the schools, where does Parks and Rec fit in to what our maintenance crew does. It feels like maybe there are some different thoughts about that around town, and people have commented on some of the grass at Woodland and just kind of what it looks like, and it seems like there's just some questions about who's in charge. So if Rob has some.
Yeah, so if we do the
Input on
second
that.
meeting in September, would that work? Just because I think our
That
first meeting is going to be full
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, that would be fine. If there's anything that we could be doing on our part in terms of being taxpayers and members of the community, if there's a challenge between
Yep.
people coming together and working collaboratively, you know, I don't want to speak for the group, but I think we'd be happy to help out with that.
Yeah, no, we can kind of
Okay.
share what the process
That'd be
is.
great.
Yep.
I don't know, it might even make sense for us to just attend a Parks
Meeting.
Department meeting. 'Cause I don't know if we wanna wait till the end of September to get this resolved, cause there's just a lot of conversation that's happening out there, and it's not a productive conversation right now.
Yep.
So I think we need to get in front of it sooner.
Why
rather than
don't
later.
why don't I see which one is first?
Yeah.
'Cause I'm not sure what the parks like how frequently they happen in the summer.
Right, okay.
But I can
Any
check
other
that.
future agenda items?
When's the budget subcommittee meeting?
I think tentatively July 31st.
July 3rd, okay.
I think that was confirmed today.
Was it confirmed today?
Mhm.
Okay.
We appreciate your flexibility on us rolling out your
That's
evaluation documents.
not a
and
problem at all.
So we know we're putting that on the agenda, I believe, for the August meeting. So or is that moving to September
I think the
also?
first September meeting, 'cause there's no
September.
August meeting.
Oh, okay. Then I guess it'll be September. Okay. Anything else from any other members? Does anyone have any old business? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn? Megan, seconded by Joe. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.